In this video, we're going to look through the latest news in the crypto space, and there's a lot of news that you need to be aware of. We'll also look into price projections from Bitcoin from the street. We'll then turn to structural levels so you can see what's actually realistically going on. And so much more. Let's run the numbers. Hi everyone, I'm Ken from Crypto Trading KS and the CTKS method. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe and don't forget to smash that like button. Okay, let's get into it. In crypto news today, brace yourselves, price discovery is coming. Interest rate cuts are on the way. The ECB has already done it, Canada has done it, the Danish Central Bank has done it, the Fed is next. US Bitcoin ETF saw $488 million in inflows yesterday, and across the past 2 days there's been $1.37 billion. You can see the total inflows down here by spot Bitcoin ETF. We are definitely moving into a scarcity situation. On the 4th of June, there were 450 Bitcoin that were mined, but purchased by ETFs 12,508. The world has never seen ETF flows like this. Look at this. 1 day flow, 1 week flow, 1 month, and year to date. Wow, that is incredible. Even more incredible is that we look to be just starting to get going. Look at this as compared with all of that. Jenny Johnson, the president and CEO of Franklin Templeton, said on Bitcoin adoption, this is really the first wave of early adopters. The next wave is the much bigger institutions. According to Fidelity, as reported by CNBC, a small Bitcoin allocation makes sense regardless of your thesis on the cryptocurrency. Semler Scientific is at it again, with another 247 Bitcoin for 17 million added to their corporate treasury. Corporate adoption is just getting going, thanks to Michael Saylor. The growth of the internet made so many companies rich beyond their wildest dreams, and we can see Bitcoin adoption versus internet adoption from Crypto.com is actually growing faster than internet adoption. That means that going forward 10 years' time, crypto companies will be the largest companies in the world. When we look at the price of a home in US dollars versus Bitcoin, in 2016 it would cost 664 Bitcoin. 4 years later it would cost 445, and 4 years later, even though the price of the same house is going up, it would cost 6.6 Bitcoin. Bitcoin is making a lot of sense right now. Even the politicians are getting into it. Just in, Standard Chartered Bank says Bitcoin will reach 150,000 if Donald Trump wins the presidential election. In other news, the third biggest offshore Bitcoin and crypto exchange, Bybit, has opened up registration to Chinese investors. Also, in breaking news, Robinhood to acquire crypto exchange Bitstamp. So let's get into some Bitcoin analysis, and of course crypto as well. The reason that we look at Bitcoin's gravitational pull on the crypto market is because the ALTS, the other cryptos, follow Bitcoin's price momentum from a directional correlation perspective. For example, as Bitcoin is moving down, the ALTS will move down as well. This is a critical thing to understand. It also goes in reverse. As Solana is rallying, it's rallying because Bitcoin is rallying. That's why we need to get a really good understanding and comprehension on where Bitcoin is going. If we don't know the structural levels on Bitcoin, we simply can't trade or invest in our alts correctly. That's why we must know the structural levels, as well as the directional movement of Bitcoin. Understanding directional play is incredibly important. Sometimes you'll see something like this, incredibly good news on crypto Twitter and everywhere else, on stock twits and fin twits. But what happens to price? It's coming down. Why? Glad you asked. It's all about structure. Some very interesting things to keep your mind on. When it comes to Google searches, look at this. This is the price of Bitcoin, and these are the searches on Bitcoin. They're not getting really anywhere close to any kind of peak. We'll look into this as well. Because a lot of people right here say, the bull market is over, especially the bears. It's also good to keep in mind that Bitcoin's price is still higher than the previous all-time highs, well, that one there in particular. When we take a more long-range view, each bull market is divided into 4-year cycles, so we can see that the previous high has been passed here. Now, what about that? That's just from the close, so just bear these particular things in mind. It's not from the peak, not from the tip, but it's still very valid. What are we seeing here? When we get a movement across the all-time high of the previous cycle, we tend to move up into parabolic price action. That could mean that we're looking very, very good. It's really good to look at crypto from a number of different perspectives. From the rational route here, the halving progress. What we can see, we're 3% through the halving progress. We're about here. We were here in the last cycle, here in the last cycle, and the last cycle before the last cycle, we were there. This typically is a time of great volatility, so you will see a lot of different people saying a lot of different things, and we do have institutional adoption as well, so things could get pretty crazy pretty quickly, but always remember, it's structure that matters. Plan B is a very happy camper. He got his first red dot, and what do we notice about the first red dots? Well, they generally just point to exactly what I was talking about before, a parabolic move upwards. So strap yourselves in, people, it's going to get bumpy. TechDev also put out a really interesting chart. You can see here, he's basically saying that we've bypassed this particular line. It's a little bit different price behavior, more akin to what happened in 2017. Things could get a little bit choppy, a little bit up and down before they take off. But we're seeing a confluence of perspectives that higher prices are incoming. As a community, we're very scientific how we look into price behavior. We don't tend to just look at recent indicative price and make a lot of assumptions from that. We tend to go over all of price history and look at what makes the most sense. But what does make a lot of sense is that higher prices are on the way. Financial analysis is very statistically and mathematically driven, and a lot of people can look at the same chart in so many different ways. This is what you must be continuously aware of. People can point to different things and create their own stories, but what it looks like, no matter which chart you look at, is exponential price action is incoming. All bull markets climb a wall of worry, and when we look at the peaks, when we're looking at realized cap hodl waves, we generally get these big movements up in this particular indicator. We can see this indicator is quite low at the current time, which suggests that we've got more upside before we hit the peak. Even Carl the Moon came out with his own analysis, and that points to ever increasing prices. Good on you, Carl. And talking about price predictions, hey, Robert Kiyosaki is into it. Bitcoin will be $350,000 by August the 25th, 2024. Social media is abuzz with inverse head and shoulders patterns playing out with targets of 91, 85, and all sorts of numbers in between. Expectations from social capital is that Bitcoin will reach more than 500,000 per coin by October 2025, and by the next 12 to 18 months, 170 to 180K is the absolute worst case scenario for Bitcoin, says others. But we need to take a little bit of a step backwards and look at the market structure. A lot of people think that there is no resistance above when you get into price discovery. This is actually untrue. CTKS structure exists above all previous all-time highs. We need to keep a specific eye out on total crypto market cap, and we can see that from the $2.47 trillion mark, we were initially rejected at that 2.54. Then we gained strength, got over it, but we had a $2.561 trillion level that we just couldn't get over. We've come back to the 2.54 trillion. Typically, when you have several levels of heavy structural resistance above the current price, as it was back here, and this is for total crypto market cap, which has been trading for more than 3,700 days, what tends to happen is it does need to consolidate before it can go higher, because there's just so many sellers here inside the entire crypto market trying to just take profits. Two levels that you need to keep your eye open for. If we get bearish momentum, that puts the $2.47 trillion mark in play, that structural level. But if we get bullish momentum, look for the $2.616 trillion area. Let's have a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been trading for in excess of 5,200 days. These levels are structural. That means that they are formed through an analysis of all of price history. Now, what does it mean? It means simply that there are multiple areas of resistance and support inside every chart, not just one or two, but multiple, because you're looking over the entirety of price history. We can see this 71,791 mark is very important. We saw that we got above that 71,554 structural resistance level, but couldn't confirm it. And when we came down, we couldn't confirm any of these levels. That put this lower 70,587 in play. And you can see we made a high here, but a lower high here, and we've been failing all the way through. Now, what does this actually mean? And does it mean that Bitcoin is going to retrace or going to plummet? When looking at a chart like this, we need to be aware of what is called a negative air gap and a positive air gap. In negative air gaps, price can move down very, very quickly, and it can shake a lot of people out. It draws the shorts in, and the short liquidations are required to break through these upper resistance levels. From a trading and investing perspective, when crypto gets around these structural support levels, that's an ideal time to get in. And a lot of people have a wide variety of ways that they trade and invest. But if you're investing around structural support levels, you're doing the right thing. That's what it's all about. You want to lower your average buy price. Solana is an absolute favorite, and look at this thermonuclear area of structure at that 170 mark. These act as gravitational wells, so price can go above and go below, but it typically comes back to it. So just keep your eye on the 170 mark. A bullish price momentum would involve moving up to the 178, and just be aware that the lower structural support level on Solana is currently 157. If Solana does sell off, it could come down very, very quickly, and that's an impact of negative air gaps. You can also see that when we look on the structural levels of XRP that's been trading in excess of 3,700 days, we have quite a lot of structure from that 5182 mark down to the 5097 area. When it comes to Dogecoin, we can see this 161.86 area was a structural support area, then it was broken, came down, got retested, and has resumed downwards just at the moment. We know if Bitcoin comes up, this is the level to watch. You want a progressive movement above there to open up that 17,117 mark. If we continue to get negative price action inside Bitcoin, that will push every single alt down. And we would expect this 15,830 mark, the 15,677 mark, and especially that 15,548 mark, which is much stronger. Unfortunately, ADA has been very weak of late. It does have structural support between 46.10 and 44.23, but it's starting to lose those structural levels, and it's moving into lighter structural support. You can see this negative fresh air gap down to 39.85, but if we manage to get above this 46.10, that opens up the 49.89 area. If you would like to see the structure on the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, the VIX, DXY, Bitcoin Gold, all of these, as well as MicroStrategy, the Aussie dollar, Ethereum Classic, the Dow and the Russell, the TradingView indicators inside CTKSMethod.org have been released on all of these green ones so far. And also, Ethereum Classic makes its debut into the service. MicroStrategy, the Aussie dollar, the Dow, the Russell, and all these unshaded areas will be coming soon. And yesterday I released all of the 3D price paths or the CTKS paths on all of these green areas. So you can get a very good understanding as to where Bitcoin could be headed to this month, as well as gold, oil, junk bonds, the US 10, total. And generally, those CTKS paths are quite eerily accurate. It's important to remember, even in an uptrend, price is always moving up and down, up and down. When it moves down, it's not the start of a bear market. When it moves up, it's not going to infinity and beyond. It's just moving in a trend. The same thing happens when price is going down. It comes down, but then it retraces. You get the idea. And it's always retracing to CTKS structural levels. So that's why it's so incredibly important to know where they are. Especially across the Tier 1 charts. These Tier 1 charts give you an incredible insight into what the main markets are doing, and every market is intercorrelated and interdependent. If you're just in crypto, you're probably ignoring the stock market and probably more likely than not ignoring Forex and the bond market. But this is a big mistake because all of the markets are intercorrelated and interconnected. Crypto's fate is tied to the main market's fate as well. That's a bit of a secret. A lot of people don't want to tell you that, but it's absolutely correct. Have a great day or night ahead, my friends, and Kate and I look forward to catching up with you again in the next video. Bye for now.